Okay, I think we'll get started. I know some other people might join as we go, but I just thought we'd get started now. Just trying to keep on time. So officially just like to welcome everyone who has joined us today for our webinar with Carolynne Hunter, who we're delighted who's joined us today to talk about a family carer's perspective. And what we'll do is Norma will give Carolynne a much better introduction than I would, but we'll start with just explaining that this is going to be recorded, and then there'll be a post-webinar email sent out with the link to the full live recording as well. So if there's anyone that you know that hasn't been able to make today, and really wanted to, there will be that recording available to watch as well afterwards. There will be a Q&A, a question answer option at the very end as well. So please, if there's any questions that you have for Carolynne or Norma or whatever we've discussed today, please just feel free to put that into the Q&A box or the chat, and then I will go through them at the end as well. So yeah, I will pass on to Norma now and we will get started. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adele, and thank you to everyone for joining us. Really appreciate that. And I'm delighted to have Carolynne here in conversation. So Carolynne and I have known each other for some time now. I'm just going to share the screen so you can see a lovely picture of Carolynne and her beautiful daughter. Let me just move this out of the way and then. So as I say, Carolynne and I have known each other for quite a few years now, and I would say that it's probably initially through the work on the Scottish Postural Care Forum, Carolynne, and you can explain what your role is with PAMIS, and of course, more recently, which is an exciting development that we can share with you all through this presentation, is within your moving and handling, specifically training of family carers. So that's amazing news. So tell us, Carolynne, what is your official title with PAMIS? Who, if you don't know who they are, we should probably let you know who PAMIS are as well.
Yeah, so I'm the project lead for the postural care education. That's where when I started 4 years ago, that's what my title was, and I've also got other projects, and the new project, the moving and handling, it's just fantastic to be part of that. So that's also postural care as well. So it's a 3-year project. We're delivering sessions to family carers, and we have me and 3 experts actually are delivering that education to the family carers, and also students as well who are on placement with PAMIS, which is really good. Their feedback is great. So I started with PAMIS. So PAMIS look after, it's a charity, and we look after families with children with PMLD, in the sense of we offer training, we offer advice, we do sessions, art and crafts. We're also the organisation that tries to, well, we look after the Change in Place Toilets campaign. So we've got lots and lots of different bits and pieces that we do, supporting families. We've also got family support directors who work directly with families on just anything that they need help with, and I work with the family support directors as well to support the families in a sort of training way. So yeah, we're a good team. I think there's maybe about 20 of us that work for PAMIS in Scotland, and I started with PAMIS as a volunteer about maybe 8 years ago, and the reason that I met Jenny Miller was because I was campaigning for carers in Parliament, and I was talking about Freya's story, my caring story with Freya, and a lot of the story was about postural care and moving and handling of Freya, and that sort of prompted Jenny to want to have a coffee with me after the meeting, and then that was it. Lots and lots of projects that I've been involved with voluntary for a few years, and then I started to deliver the postural care training to deliver Freya's story. So that's me, and I'm also obviously Freya's mum. I care for Freya. She's 16 on Friday. She's absolutely beautiful wee girl. She's my youngest. I have 3 other children, older children. My son is 32, Scott, and he has his own family. And Aaron, he's 27, and Katie's 22. So we all care for Freya and look after Freya in different ways. And yeah, Freya's loves being at home, loves her family. We've got 3 dogs as well, but I've got 3 grandchildren too. And yeah, with Freya's a happy wee girl, but she does have a lot of intensive medical needs, and she's cared for by me and a team of NHS nurses and social care and self-directed support nurses staff 24/7. So she needs 2-to-1 care because of her extensive medical needs, and her biggest issues are respiratory problems, and she can't move herself at all, so she needs every single thing done for her. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
You keep very, very busy, Carolynne, and I know that you've mentioned already your influence in terms of being an advocate for not just Freya, but for all those children, young people and adults living with profound and multiple learning disabilities. And I must say that some of you who are listening might recognise Carolynne because you've been on television, Carolynne.
Yeah, I'm on it a lot.
You're successfully crowdfunded, and there was a celebrity that I believe donated a substantial amount because of your work. So well done. That was incredible.
Yeah. Kate Winslet. Yeah. So yeah, Kate met Freya a couple of years ago. She came to visit, and she was really I think she was quite humbled by our little bedroom for Freya. It was like a little hospital sort of bedroom, but everything was there for her. Everything that we needed for her. So but my campaigning was around, it still is, I'm still on it. I'm still campaigning for energy prices, because obviously when the price cap went up, families like mine need to power lots of different equipment, but moving and handling equipment, Freya's bed, everything, hoists, heating, just 24/7. So families like mine, their energy bills went tripled up to huge amounts, and a lot of families have became, well, they're in debt, they're struggling, the cost of living as well. So my campaigning was around helping and supporting families through the government providing a social tariff, insulation, heat pumps, more energy efficient means, panels for families. So I've been involved in a huge amount of government meetings, and in fact I've got a few next week that I need to attend. But yeah, lots of, and it's all voluntary campaigning that I do, and yeah, I'm getting there. I think we're getting there. So things are moving forward.
Work. And we were all delighted to share in your celebration of being awarded recently at the Carers Award as well, at the Carers Awards. That was exceptional. So it's delighted that you got that recognition as well, Carolynne.
Yeah, thank you.
So delighted for you. So fully committed, and I think it's very helpful having you here today, because although it has just been actually recently, as you've just mentioned, about you being involved in actually delivering moving and handling training, you have Freya's lifetime's worth of actually seeing what moving and handling involves. Yeah. And there's been a mixture of that being positive and negative. So we can just have a little look at that and think of the journey that you've been on from when she was little, now she's growing into a young adult now. Can you give us an example of the moving and handling tasks during the day that you have to assist Freya with?
Yeah, and I mean, when Freya was little, it was a lot easier, and Freya didn't really grow too big for a long time, so it was a lot easier to handle Freya. But we didn't have, in the old house, we didn't have the equipment that we needed to be able to bath Freya. We had to take her upstairs. We didn't have because Freya lived downstairs in the dining area. I had a team of nurses in at that point. We didn't have the correct equipment, and I think it just sort of going back to that era, it was quite difficult. And because we didn't have the space and the equipment, then it was becoming quite sort of dangerous for everybody to be handling Freya, taking her upstairs, putting her in the bath. We did have a bath seat, but it was, you know, it was really quite tricky, not just for us, but for Freya as well. And I think, you know, those days were difficult. And then I again campaigned at the time it was the First Minister of Scotland around housing, because there wasn't any appropriate housing for my family, and I managed to secure a beautiful home for us. Eventually, it was quite tough. It was tough campaign and tough year really. For all of us, because Freya was very sick. She was on life support, and she was really poorly. I was still working. My oldest son was diagnosed with cancer, and all at that time we did end up being provided with an appropriate home. So moving into that home was one thing that, you know, that was positive to this home that we're in. But the problem with this home was the area that Freya lives in. There's not a lot of space. It's not a huge area, and the bathroom, the ceiling levels were different. They were different levels of the bedroom and the bathroom. So although we did have a tracking hoist put in, the solution wasn't really too good. Freya was still quite small when we moved here, but she did start to thrive after we moved into this house and started to put, you know, more weight on, get bigger, and the moving and handling situation was quite dire, actually. It was very difficult because we had a hoist in the bedroom, and then we had a different hoist in the bathroom, different level, but we only had one arm. So we had to use one of these things that you take the arm off, put it on. So we were having to get Freya out. In fact, I'm sure we had a hoist that was a portable hoist as well, so we had to get Freya out the bed in from a portable hoist, put her into our comfy chair, because we never ever got a bath seat to take Freya through to the bathroom. We just had to put her in the comfy chair, and then she would have to be taken through to the bathroom, and she would be hoisted into the bath. We didn't end up using the little wheelie thing that you put the arm on, because it was just too much messing around for the staff. Freya had a lot of staff at that time as well, and it was really difficult because Freya has seizures, she has incontinence, she can block off at any point. So when you're taking her out the bath or taking her out her bed, and you know she's in the sling, she could start choking. We've always got suction available, but Freya has a really tricky airway. So all these manoeuvres were really difficult to have to do, but we all got used to it, and that's how we had to live. But you know, it wasn't the best solution, and I did have to kind of fight to get the tracking hoist. It's now we've got two arms, so that's a bit better. We don't have the big clumpy mobile hoist in the room, so we've got a bit more space for the furniture. But Freya never ever got her bath chair, and funnily enough, I saw a really nice bath chair on LinkedIn, and I spoke to the Freya's now got an OT. She hasn't had an OT for about 3 years in the area that we live in, so she's now got an OT, and I asked if we could think about getting her a bath chair, as well as a new comfy chair, because our comfy chairs, I think it's 10 years old, and it needs to be. I think it's not working too well, and she's a bit big for it now. So I'd rather the comfy chair was just used for Freya being comfortable in her room, and then a bath chair, which is what would be. So we do have a lot of staff coming in as well, and I think it's important that Freya is in the correct equipment. Freya was fortunate enough as well to get an amazing bath donated to her from Cash for Kids recently, and it's a Rival bath. It's similar to the Arjo, similar to the one that Freya uses in the hospice, and that's amazing. And it's got the bubbles, it's got the hydro, and it does. Freya has that bath because she needs it for medicinal reasons. A bath can prevent a hospital admission for Freya. So that's hugely important for her. Freya doesn't go very many places, so for her, we need to have somewhere for her to be able to be comfortable and have an experience, and she does love the bath experience. Freya's blind as well, I meant to say, but she does enjoy the sensoriness around her in the bath, and we have the smells, and we have all the nice sensory smell and music. She loves music. So we still don't have a proper seat for the bath either. So I think we need to think about. And I think one of the things is I don't have a huge amount of knowledge around equipment that could solve the problems. And I think sometimes, what I've seen over the years of Freya's life is that professionals come into the house, right, this is what we'll get for Freya, but they don't actually ask me to be part of that conversation or to be part of that choice. And I think, it would be nice to be, because we are looking after Freya all the time. And as much as I do believe professionals have a huge amount of knowledge around products, but I think it would be good to just be part of that conversation of what there is out there to use, and what I think would be good. And it's a mutual kind of teamwork situation for what we need to move and handle Freya. But Freya is I was in a car accident in 2014, so I was not able to lift Freya after that, but a lot of the staff did still lift her, and her dad particularly has lifted her until about 4 years ago. And I was quite happy to use the equipment because I needed to use the equipment. I'm glad I've used the equipment, but I think it's difficult for parents like me to stop lifting your child, because you don't realise how heavy your child's become as they get bigger, because you're just used to lifting your children. So and it's also a kind of detachment part as well, that sometimes the only time that I would ever be able to cuddle Freya is because she's in her bed a lot, is when I was lifting her. But you have to kind of adapt that, and you have to change that. And my solution was just jumping in beside her, into bed beside her, cuddling her, and lying beside her. And I can't do that now because I've been in 2 other accidents, so I'm struggling now. I've got a really serious back injury, but my back injury is probably similar to a back injury that I would have got if I had been lifting Freya for all these years. So I know how serious it is, and I think it's very important, because the project that we're running just now with PAMIS, we've already ran 2 sessions, and a lot of the families that we've spoken to as well, because we did some research before we started running sessions, and it's the family carers who have been lifting their children for so long. And I'm talking about people lifting a 19-year-old child off the floor and onto a bed, and the serious injuries that they are sustaining is so I think there's a need for training for people to be able to sorry, there's a question there. I think there's a need for people to be able to understand the moving and handling equipment is there to support them and to really help. Can everybody hear?
That's okay. Adele will answer the questions.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think it's so important for people to. I've just rambled on. Sorry, Norma.
No, don't apologise.
Sorry, Norma. You've probably got questions to ask me.
I do, but you've touched on. I probably will just pick up on a couple of things. So certainly, you being seen as the expert as well. And you and I have spoken in many cases where often professionals will not always appreciate that the family carer is the expert in the person that they're providing care for. And what that was, one of the questions was really around that sometimes you can feel lesser than. One scenario sticks in my mind, Carolynne, from your experience, which I don't know that I was surprised, because sometimes we do come across that attitude of the professional knows best. But the scenario was where Freya was being transferred. Do you want to share that with us, and where perhaps the sling wasn't being fitted correctly by someone else?
Yeah, so this wasn't that long ago, and there's so just to set the sort of scene, the package hasn't been very stable recently because of lack of staff. However, we are getting more and more bank staff coming in to replace consistent staff from the NHS. So two members of staff were looking after Freya, and I. So that means that I'm not really needed if Freya's okay. But I did happen to come into the room, Freya's room, to see how things were going, because I'm always in and out when there's two members of staff, just in case Freya's having a block off or anything's going on and they're not maybe saying to me, because a lot of staff like to just try and get on with it without having to disturb me. So I'd went in, and Freya's, so there was no strap around, there was no Velcro strap. Freya was in her comfy chair, there was no strap around her tummy, and she was going into the bath. And I said to the staff, the nurse, and she was at band 7. I said, what's going on here? I said, she's not got her Velcro around her. She was, oh, I put it on the wrong way around. I said, what do you mean? She said, I put it on back to front. I said, well, you can't, there's no way that you can put her in the bath like that. We're going to have to get her back into her bed somehow, and you're going to have to put it on the right way. And it wasn't a difficult conversation, but it was, and she was like, I said, look, this is really dangerous for Freya. I said, it has to be done right. I said, also, she didn't have the bits at the front where you loop it through to make sure it's secure so that Freya can't fall forward. She didn't have that in place either. I said, I don't know how you've managed to do this without those being in place and Freya not fall forward. Anyway, I don't think she was very pleased. I said, look, I'm not trying to be big-headed here or anything, but I have just done the moving and handling training course to be a trainer. And she says, well, I'm a moving and handling trainer as well. And I was just, it was just that kind of conversation. But my fear was that something bad was going to happen to Freya. So anyway, we got her back into her bed, and we got the sling the right way round. But I just felt, it was as if, oh, well, what does she know? But she's just mum. I'm not a professional, but actually I am a professional. I'm a professional around Freya. I'm a professional around making sure that Freya's safe. That's what I want to know, that Freya's safe and that she has everything in place that she needs. And that's what I do every day of my life. I make sure that Freya's safe. I oversee more of the package now than I do practical because of my back injury, but I'm always there. I'm making sure that everything's in place. And I think, over the years, and not just with, the moving and handling situation or postural care, I think I'm a lot stronger now because I'm a lot wiser, and I'm, but when it was the early days of Freya's life, I did feel quite as if, oh, you don't know anything. We're the professionals, we're the experts, and you don't know. But I did, because I was looking after Freya 24/7, and I knew my little girl. I knew everything that was going on with her, and I could predict her phenytoin levels without even getting the blood test done. It was at one point I got it right every time. This was when she was a baby, and I remember the consultant saying, how do you know this? I said, I don't know, I just do. I just do it because I know the way her behaviour, everything, the way she is. So, and I can predict so much with Freya. And that, having that sense, I just know how Freya is and what's best for Freya, and if she's not comfortable, if she's if she's happy. And I think moving and handling, if you think about it, I always think of it, Freya's not able to walk, she's not able to talk, she's not able to give me the answers about anything, how she's feeling. I have to do that for her, and so does the staff that's looking after her. And we have to be her legs, we have to be her arms, we have to make sure that she's safe and that that equipment's been serviced, it's been maintained, it's been risk assessed, everything's in place. And I knew that before I did the training, but even more so, I understand how important it is to make sure that everybody knows that this is safe, what's going on around about Freya, and we're not doing anything that's out of the realms of what's being assessed. And I think, there was one time a couple of years ago, it was during the pandemic, and I was in the kitchen, and I went through, and Freya wasn't in her bedroom, she was out in the garden, but she was out in the garden in her standing frame. I was thinking, how did you get her out there? Because there's no hoist out there, because you're not supposed to wheel a standing frame down a ramp and into the garden. That was something, but it'd been done. We had to just, it was the first time she'd ever been out in her standing frame. Wasn't too happy about it, but she was safe enough and everything was fine. But there are things that happen and you think, oh, that shouldn't, that's not right. And I think sometimes you do feel, I think the conversations I've been having recently with the OT, for instance, I know what Freya needs. And, I do feel that sometimes you are kind of overridden by, oh, I'm a professional, I've been to university, I've done this, and and I get that, and I totally respect that people have those qualifications, they've got that experience, but I also have the experience, and I think it's important to work together and just try and thrash that out and make sure that you're doing the best. It's the best for Freya, but it's also the best for the parent as well, and the people who are caring for Freya. Because I have carers who have bad backs. I have carers who, maybe are not able to, they're not as able. They're maybe, and I've noticed as well, with moving and handling, the height of people makes a difference as well, in a room, and you've got a bed high up, you've got a bed low, we all do things differently. I like to make sure when Freya's been hoisted from her bed into the comfy chair that the bed's right next to the chair, so that if anything was to go wrong, Freya wouldn't land on the floor. She would land obviously on the chair, and I'm hoping that never ever happens. But I'm always careful around how manoeuvres. But some people have got the chair miles away and they've not even got it under her, and it's there's different things. Also, Freya goes to school, so we've had a few problems where Freya's came back from school, the nurses have started to hoist her, and the wee bits haven't been thread through that I was talking about earlier to keep her in. So what we do now is we've got a checklist at school where they've got to tick it off and say they've been done. We leave them connected. So when she comes home, they're always connected. But I always say to the staff, you need to make sure that Freya's they're between her legs are done. Also, there's been a few incidents where Freya's been in her comfy chair, she's had a blanket on top of her, they've got the hoist bits all ready to lift her, and she's the chair's been lifted with her. So can you imagine how painful that would be for Freya? So the chair's been lifted, because they've not took the belt off. So there's been a lot of things that have happened, but we've put stuff in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. Because it's Freya that's the one that obviously it's affecting, and I've seen it happen. I've walked in, I've seen the chair going, and it's just awful. You don't know if that's affected her hips, or it can't be nice for her for that to happen.
And obviously there can be errors. We all make errors. But you mentioned about, the most important thing is that she's safe, that Freya's safe when being transferred. That are you involved, and it brings it, because I know that we've spoken about this in the past as well, Carolynne, with risk assessments. Are you involved in that process and collaborating with the professionals and that side of things?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I realised when I did the training, that I wasn't involved in the risk assessment process. And I think for me, um, that's that's quite scary actually, because it's a legal document, and it's actually, you know, it should involve me because it's in our environment, it's in Freya's environment, it's about Freya, it's about everybody who's looking after Freya, who's primarily me and her dad and the carers. And no, I'm not. And I find that quite to be quite sort of disturbing. So I did ask the people that look after Freya in terms of who would be doing their risk assessments 10 weeks ago if I could have all the risk assessments, but they've not been sent to me. And one of the things I will say is with the awareness sessions that we're running, that seems to be a common theme. The parents don't seem to be part of it. They've not even seen the risk assessment. So I think that's something that definitely needs to be rolled out
Yeah,
and worked
yeah,
on. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, that does involve training. And when we look at that, I certainly find that it's a little bit of a postcode lottery. So we cover the whole of the UK and beyond. And the conversations I will have that it really varies on what's available to family carers. It will vary from responsibility down to local teams. Obviously, you've mentioned that PAMIS, who are a charitable organisation, have then been awarded funds to arrange for this, but there isn't any consistencies, it would appear, in providing family carers with training. Is that what you come across with PAMIS?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're running awareness sessions, which is mostly about, we're talking about the health and safety aspect, manual handling in general. We're talking about how the spine can be affected, if you're doing these manoeuvres without the equipment. And we're also given we're doing a practical session, but for an hour. But what we're seeing is that family carers that have been on this awareness session really want to have a proper workshop day where they're getting to use the equipment, they're getting to be part of it, they're getting more insight into how to use it and different aspects of it and how it would personalise it with their family member. And I think we can't offer that at the moment, but I think it's crucial that happens, because I will be honest, I've had times where a bit of equipment's came into the house, but we've never been shown how to use it. It's here's your whatever, even the tracking hoist. I get nervous every time I use it, even now after all these years. And there's also that thing. It's like when you go to a changing place as well. This really is how nervous I get about changing places, which is why I'm glad I'm getting one in Freya's car, because Freya's getting a new car which will have a changing place in it. But when you go to one, you don't know how all hoists are different. They're all different. They look different. They feel different. Everything's just a bit different. So it's just about that whole sort of getting used to equipment. But even slide sheets, you're given a Wendy-let sheet. We've got Wendy-let sheets for Freya, but we can't use them because we think we can't use them because Freya's got a sleep system in place for her posture. But I was talking to a physio at the training that comes to the training to support us, not the training, the awareness session. And she was saying that there is ways of using Wendy-let sheets with a sleep system. It can be a bit tricky, but you can still use them. So that means that the staff would be able to lift Freya up the bed, because Freya has a habit of moving down the bed through the night and stuff. So I do worry about the staff because they're on their own at night, through the night. They're awake in night shift because Freya has she has about 100 interventions through the night, and that's a good night for Freya. But they tend to just get on with it themselves, but they can't be waking me up all through the night for a pad change or whatever. And sometimes Freya can have 20 or 30 pad changes in a day, because of her condition and the way she is, because she coughs and then she hasn't got control. I feel, the staff, I don't want the staff lifting her up the bed, because that is so dangerous for because they're leaning over, and I think they just, you know, it's an easier option to do that, but I would rather they use the sheets through the night. And also, obviously, it's better for Freya, because I don't want Freya to be manhandled, you know, because that's sore for Freya if they're having to lift her up the bed. And, you know, that's one of the things that I've always been careful about, and you know, saying to people, I want you to use the equipment, because the equipment's there to protect Freya, but it's also to protect you. But I think, you know, in terms of training, I think there's so much that what we've been doing, the awareness session, the people that have been on the training, they think it's absolutely, the awareness session, they want more, but we can't offer that just now. But they do want more. They want more insight. What our awareness session does as well is, which is, it's fantastic, it's giving parents the voice to speak to practitioners and be you know, have that confidence. Well, actually, I know about this equipment. I know that this is something that I need for my child, and I want to have, so it's given that confidence as well, which is so important. But I think, you know, having that knowledge of the training in a practical sense of using equipment, I think would be so much better. And even just the way you stand, I mean, I noticed on the training that I was on, even just the way you stand, because I stayed for the practical, and when the way that you stand is even important when you're doing manoeuvres with your child, even when you're using slide sheets and when you're using, you know, and not having that sort of bending over. Even everybody that was on the awareness session, most people had a profiling bed, but profiling beds are actually there to make things easier for you, up and down and different heights. But you know, I don't think people are as aware of that. Now, I have a lot of staff that I also employ staff as from self-directed support budget. That's people I've chosen myself. Now, I'm given a training budget to send the staff to Glasgow to a training course for a couple of days. And every member of staff that's been on that have said it's actually not relevant to what they're doing with Freya, because it's quite a generic training course. And I feel that it would be good to have a specific training course for our kids, the group of people that we PAMIS care for, but you know, children with PMLD, who have seizure activity. They have, you know, there's different aspects of their care, their medical conditions that actually make moving and handling really tricky, and it's a bit more kind of complex. So I think that would be good to kind of have that option as well for certainly for PAs, and also the staff that work for the NHS. I think they go on a generic training course around moving and handling. But yeah, I think there's definitely absolute need for training parent carers. And your students got so much out of it as well. They've given feedback about it, and it was, yeah, it's definitely
having the insight there, isn't it? It's a different perspective. So where do we go for the future then? We'll need to see what questions have come in, but you know, can we learn from what you're picking up on in the awareness session? So we have, you know, the need for more complex cases and recognizing, especially for various, it's not so much condition specific, but for the complexities of cases, but also having the voice of the family carer. Will you be sharing the information that you're learning from the awareness session so that we can share across the UK? Would that be something we can do?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. We're reporting. We do our reporting, but definitely, I mean, we're already sort of thinking we need to have more awareness around risk assessments, the risk assessment process. I think our model of training is training parent carers with practitioners and care providers, and I think that scene is really, that way of training is really well well received, because the practitioners then get the point of view of the parent carers and how, and they actually change their practice. I've spoken to practitioners who have been on our course, our postural care course, and they, you know, they think about the key parts of when I've spoken about I wasn't ready at that point. I was, you know, that's just parts of my, when I'm delivering, I wasn't ready at that point to accept that, but the person was patient that was looking after the clinician, the practitioner was very patient around my acceptance of what was going on in my life with Freya, and they kept, if they just said, well, oh, I've had enough of this, then I wouldn't have been on that postural care journey with Freya, and I don't think she would be as well as she is now. But that's another story. But I think, you know, having all those people together in a room and training together is just a really good it's just a great model of training for everybody, and even students. We've actually had patients themselves, when we did some training with people with neurological conditions who had movement difficulties. They were there as well, and it was just really, really, really good feedback, and conversations were fantastic. As a facilitator myself, it was a wonderful experience to be part of that, and the learning was profound. It was really profound.
I think it's really helpful to share that, Carolynne, and I think we will continue to share with this group. So anyone who's joined us today will keep you informed of the journey, and certainly myself and Emma Collins, we are part of the advisory group for the family carers training. So we'll keep you up to date on that. I'm not sure if there are any questions. That's been hugely helpful, Carolynne. So I'm going to ask Adele if there have been any questions specifically for you.
Yeah, so I've just checked, so we do have one, and it's, have you got a bed system in place to work with the ceiling track hoist?
Yeah. So I've got a sleep system. Freya has a princess bed. Again, that was donated from Cash for Kids when we went through the pandemic, because Freya was spending so much time in her bed, and it also tilts from side to side, which was great for Freya's respiratory health. So we have that, and we've got the sleep system in place, and we've also got the track and hoist. So Freya's able to. So it's comfortable, and I know it's comfortable for Freya because she smiles and she's happy when she's been hoisted. We'll say, oh, we're going to swing you. We don't swing her, but you're going on your swing, Freya, and she gets all happy, and she knows that she's safe. She knows that she's safe, and I think that's hugely important for Freya as well, that she knows that she's safe in that equipment, and everybody around about her is competent and confident that they're doing the right thing with her as well in her equipment. But yeah, so Freya does have a lot of, what we try to do with Freya as well is we try to move her from different pieces of equipment regularly. So when she's at school, she's moved around a lot. So she's getting into a different position. But at home on a Saturday and Sunday, we'll have her, she'll go into the bath, and that'll be a nice experience for her. And then get her all ready, and then we'll have her in her comfy chair, and then later on we'll maybe put her back into her bed, into her sleep system, because she has BiPAP. If she's sleeping, she'll have BiPAP, so we usually do that when she's in her bed, in her sleep system. And then in the afternoon we'll maybe put her back into her comfy chair, and then once she's been in that for a wee while, she'll maybe listen to a film or whatever, we'll maybe even take her outside to the front door. I know it's quite cold, but we'll have her in the hallway, and maybe so she can hear, she likes to listen to birds and what's going on outside, because we live next to a burn, so she can hear the river, like the wave, the kind of sound of the burn, and the trees. We're around lots of trees. We're kind of in the glen, so it's lovely and natural for her to be at the door. And then we'll take her back and we'll put her into her bed, and she'll be in her sleep system again. And then she has a lot of medical interventions between 3 and 7, like nebulizers and column-ice and everything, all that kind of thing. Medicine, physio, chest physio, a lot of chest physio goes on with Freya. And then we'll get her bath ready and we'll bath her again, and then she'll go back into her bed. But she's not sleeping very well at the moment at night. She likes to sleep through the day. But she does get moved around a lot, and that's to help with her chest health, her respiratory. And she just, you know, she's got an Achieva bed as well, so she's able to go into the living room with that. And she's also got the Moby bed. She's got quite a lot of equipment, so we can move her from different pieces of equipment. And she's happy. And we always make sure, I think it's very important as well to make sure that Freya's, if she wasn't in a good condition with her airway, we wouldn't be hoisting her into her comfy chair, for instance. We might need to hoist her into her bath. But we'd obviously need to be careful around that as well. So yeah. Somebody said happy birthday. Yes, it's Freya's birthday on Friday. She's going to be 16. I can't wait. We're having a party. We're having a little party. So yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. We have, I don't know if there's any more questions. If anyone does, please send in. But there's just been a lot of comments just saying that just that you're a great mum and it was a fantastic presentation, and that a lot there's a lot of OTs actually listening at the minute, and they're just saying that it'd be great to be able to have the joint work between family carers and them working closely and in the future as well. So everyone's really looking forward to seeing how everything goes as well with that. And a lot of people reaching out to say to get in touch if you need any support as well, which is lovely. And again, a lot of happy birthdays for Freya as well. So
that's nice.
And just let me just double check that I haven't missed anything while I'm here. There's a lot of comments coming in now.
I will say this won't be the last that you'll hear or see of Carolynne. We have lots of great work to do, Carolynne, don't we? And actually we're in person tomorrow, so we have Rise for Disability tomorrow on 24-hour postural care, but certainly the area of moving and handling training for family carers is something that we do need to see change. And so this won't be the last time that you get to hear from Carolynne through A1, so please do watch this space. Because shall
I mention that she was stuck in the bath? Or shall we wait for the next time?
We could do that in the update. Yes, it's like an A to Z of what not to do, wasn't it?
Yeah, what not to do. Yeah. We can talk about that the next time.
Let me see. I do have a question, and it just said, were there any specific examples of gaps in the training given to Freya's carers compared to her needs?
I think the carers that come in from the NHS, they're trained by NHS moving and handling. They'll do moving and handling NHS, but I do sometimes notice that because they've not been. So I always link moving and handling to postural care, because it's very you can't put Freya into a piece of equipment wrongly, or she's not going to be posturally supported. So if you put her into her chair and she's not in her chair properly, then she'll just be slouched and she won't be comfortable and her posture won't be right. And it's the same with her. But I have noticed that because some of the staff who look after my staff are very posturally aware, but some of the staff that are coming in, because we've got a lot of new staff, they're not aware of Freya's postural needs, and I do notice that they're not, when they're maybe putting her into her wheelchair. You obviously need to get you have to we recline the wheelchair because it's easier to put her in when it's reclined, and then we make sure that our bottom's right at the back and she's nice, our hips are nice and in the right place and everything. And sometimes that doesn't happen, and you'll see Freya, she's just all slunched at the front, and you just think that I think there is a huge amount of, I think training needs to be done with the the individual, or at least people who know our children's needs. I think there needs to be specific, isn't it? Training for our group of people who just you know, have scoliosis. Freya does have a scoliosis. It's not progressed any. Oh, that's another story for another time. But you know, people who have different body shapes and things, you know, there has to be you have to be super careful when you're moving and handling people, and you need to know what's the best way to make sure that they're going to be comfortable in their equipment, because then there's no point in moving them. I mean, Freya has to be comfortable in her wheelchair for going to school, or that'll be the 30 minutes of her feeling miserable. And I don't want her to be feeling in pain, or her hip to be sore, or, you know, she needs to be positioned right. And I think that's all to do with the way that you actually take Freya out. I mean, I have seen some staff maybe not putting her in her the sling's the right way up, but it's maybe squint or something like that. Her head's maybe not in the right place, you know, and I'm sort of thinking, right, we need to get this sorted. You know, but I don't feel comfortable if that's not done. So I'm not sure if they just don't realise it's actually got to be right, or if it's just maybe they're just rushing, or whatever. But I think there is gaps. There's definitely gaps in training for people who are looking after children, people with profound and multiple learning disabilities who are I mean, you know, Freya could have, she doesn't, but she could have bed sores because she is in her bed a lot, but she doesn't have bed sores. She's got a subluxed hip actually, and that's been a bit of a challenge around moving and handling because sometimes if she's moved, it can be really painful for her. So we've had to do a lot of work around the carers with our subluxed hip situation. Seems to have calmed down now. In fact, so it was noticed at an X-ray during the pandemic, and then when we took her to get our spinal X-ray in March, the spinal consultant said that her hip was fine. It wasn't subluxed at all. So I don't know if it's went back in. I don't know, but it did cause her a lot of problems for a while. So, but we do keep her posturally supported well. So
That's great. I'm just double checking to see if there's anything else. It was for family carers, how would you go about getting funded if you were to do the manual handling training, or sorry, moving and handling training?
Good question. I think we'd have to go to the Scottish Government and ask them if they could give us some money. I don't know. I think there's such a need for it, and I think our families are across Scotland, so we've got 5 different health boards that we're going out to ask families to come to our awareness session, and all of those families so far have said that they want to have a more practical session where they can really just get their hands. But the thing is with that, there's insurance. It's a bit. I think that it costs a lot more money. It would cost a lot more money to do that. And I'm not sure if that's something that would be offered. I also think that there needs to be a mandatory. I think there needs to be a mandatory training course for PAs who are looking after our kids. Are you talking? Sorry.
Carolynne, we spoke about this from funding aspects. So bearing in mind this, you know, across the UK, it is of course mandatory, they do receive, but it should be included within a budget of assessed care. So that might be through a direct payment, and there are successes there that you can have an allocated budget within a direct payment. And if you're not in receipt of a direct payment, then if you have PAs, you will be in receipt of a direct payment, and that should be accounted for in addition to just the hourly rate. So we have quite a few successes of care teams across the UK where they have secured funding for that. So it's securing funding is one thing, and then ensuring the training is adequate is the second part of that.
Yeah, so it's two different things really. But I do think, would that include the family carers being able to be trained through that budget?
Well, that's that doesn't include. So unless the family carer is a member of the care team, that doesn't currently. But it
Yeah.
varies across the UK. Some pockets on local authorities are providing training. They are providing, but not consistently.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you're given this equipment to use. Risk assessments are done for paid carers, but for a family carer, go and use that hoist. But what if something happens? You're not really insured. You know, you're not insured at all. There's no so I think you know, it's quite a tricky. It is tricky. It's a tricky situation for family carers because we are put into a position where we have to do it. Some of us have to do it on our own. Risk assessments are probably saying there needs to be two people, but there's not enough social care to provide that. So, but there does need to be, I think, a risk assessment would say everybody should be trained in that equipment. That's what it would say. That is a health and safety aspect of that, but they're not.
Yeah. So consistency is needed.
Yeah. So yeah.
I've just double checked there. There doesn't seem to be any other questions that I have missed. But if anyone does, please email our admin at a1risksolutions.co.uk email, and I will pass any questions on to Carolynne that you may have, if she doesn't mind getting back to you with those. But we just want to say thank you so much for Carolynne for joining us and for and sharing, and the amount of thanks that is coming through the comments are great. It's really lovely seeing everyone really appreciating everything you've said and giving them a completely different kind of perspective and everything as well, Carolynne. So
yeah,
thank you very much. That's officially the end of the webinar. Just thank you to everyone who has joined us. Again, as a reminder, you will get a post-webinar email out by the end of tomorrow, just with a link to the full live webinar as well. So if you know anyone who's maybe missed it, you can let them know that they can catch up on that as well. So I don't know, Norma, if you've anything else to say, but...
No, thank you so much, Carolynne. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you at the event tomorrow as well.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody for coming along today. It's been good to be part of this. I'd always like to talk about, you know, our experience, because I think it's so important to help, you know, to help make things better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carolynne. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone.
Oh.